Welcome to our webinar, Tape Backups, Stop the Struggle for IBM Power Systems, iSeries AS400, System I, AIX, and Linux. My name is Ax Signer, Vice President of Solutions here at Electronic Storage Corporation. A little background on our company. We are located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've been in business for over 30 years. We are software developers, so here at our Tulsa office, we have our own programming staff. Also here in Tulsa, we have our own customer service and technical support staff. So we're going to talk about the struggles that come with using tape for backup and recovery. Basically, using tape is slow, especially compared to disk backup, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be using tape backup, which is going to give you unwanted and unnecessary delays because of the process of writing to tape and reading from tape is much slower than disk backup. Complex to manage, eats up IT personnel time and talent. This may be even more difficult being that some folks are working from home, therefore have to travel to the office, travel from the office to the offsite location if that's where you're storing tapes. So this will give you a way that you can completely manage your backups remotely at any time and can make it a completely automated process, not having to deal with physical tapes. Long recovery times, delay in access to data, especially if your tapes are off-site. The tape needs to be retrieved from the off-site location, transported back to the data center, loaded in the tape drive, and then that information, if that information is always online, so that any of the tapes that you might need to restore from, whether it's a quarterly tape that someone needs some file or object restored from that quarterly tape, there's no need to go and have to get the physical tape. Everything is online, accessible, that you can begin the restore immediately of that data. So let's take a look at how the virtual tape can simplify and speed up your backup and recovery process. So the main functionality we want to show is this web interface for logging into Laservault and accessing your tapes. And we're also going to talk about how to configure this system for multitudes of different types of configuration in terms of storage, in terms of configuring how many tape devices that you would like to use for each of your individual LPARs or each of your individual systems, or even being able to do saves using multiple tape devices. So we're going to log in as administrator. So as you see, you have a secure login, username, and password to access the Laservault VTL solution. Immediately come up with a status screen showing everything is running good, authorization good, configuration is going to show you how many fiber channel or SAS connections that you have from the Laservault server into whatever that you're connecting to perform saves. And so this solution is running in a Windows environment, either a Windows physical server or a Windows VM. And then you would have from that server to the iSeries either a fiber channel connection or a SAS connection. So note that this connects exactly the same way that you would connect a physical tape device or a physical tape library. Now, if you're using this in a VM environment where you're running a Windows VM, in the server that's hosting that VM, you would just need a PCIe slot for a fiber channel or SAS adapter so that you can make that connection to the iSeries and present this as either a tape device or a tape library to the iSeries. You're also given a quick shot of how many ports, or how many slots are available in this particular tape library. What's great about this solution is you can actually create over 16,000 slots for the tapes that you would need in your rotation and your retentions. As the admin, I can stop and start the service. So you see that Laservault runs as a service. Stopping the service is just like turning off the tape drive, if you will. So if you ever had to make a change in the configuration to Laservault, you can stop and restart the service right there. System configuration, I'll point to the SMTP settings here. The software has the capability of replicating your tapes, your virtual tapes, from one location to another, from one disk setup to another disk setup, whether that be a SAN or NAS or a second Laservault server or even cloud storage. And the SMTP settings allow you to set an email account that can be used to receive notifications of those replication jobs that are running and when replication jobs are completed. Port information. So here we see two physical fiber channel ports that are on our Laservault server using a QLogic fiber channel HBA. The connection mode is arbitrated loop. The data rate is 8 gig a second. You can go as high as 32 gig a second. It's showing that your link is enabled and the link is actually up and running. This solution with the QLogic HBAs does support NPIV. This is going to allow you to create for one single fiber channel port on Laservault up to 15 devices, whether that is a tape library with 15 drives or 15 tape libraries. You can define it any way that you want in terms of how many tape libraries that you need or how many tape devices that you need assigned to each of those tape libraries. So again, 15 virtual devices per fiber channel connection, whether it's 8 gig, 16 gig, or 32 gig on the Laservault server. And that can actually be either connected directly or through a switch, depending on which data rate HBAs that you're using. So you can, if you're going 16 to 16 gig, if you have 16 gig on your iSeries and 16 gig in Laservault, you'll want to go through a switch. If you're doing 8 gig from the iSeries to 16 gig to Laservault, you can do a direct connect with NPIV. So maybe you're looking for a way to even go faster than disk, and that's using 2 tape devices. So one 8 gig physical port in Laservault could give your LPAR 2 tape devices with a tape library, and you can run saves to both tape devices at the same time. Because the software has security, you're able to define groups with certain access to the tapes that are in the Laservault server and also access to the configuration. So you have administrators. I have a backup administrator group. So you can create all your own groups here. When you edit those, you can put in whichever users you've defined and add those into those groups and define whether or not they are a system admin person and that this group is a system admin group. Your users are here, so you add your users and then define which group that you'd like for them to belong. Libraries. So I have 2 tape libraries defined here on our system. Library 1 is a tape library to the iSeries, just like this. It is TAP MLB V1, and TAP V1 is the tape device associated with that. So again, if you wanted to, with a 16 gig or 8 gig connection, you could create up to 15 devices under that tape library that can be used for backups on multiple partitions, on a single partition, whatever that your configuration needs to meet in order to perform backups on all your systems. So as defined with that first library, you'll see that exists here. So to the iSeries, it looks like a tape library. It acts like a tape library. It does the same functionality as a tape library, where it loads and unloads tapes automatically. Our customers typically use Laservault as a tape library when they're using BRMS or Robot Save. Therefore, those products are managing your backups. They're managing what you are saving. They're managing your tape volumes in terms of when they expire so that they're available for the next backup. They're automatically loaded and unloaded when you go to those products and select something to save or restore. It automatically loads the tapes. And again, you have up to 16,000 tapes that could be available in the tape library for backups and your retentions. The second library configuration, this is if you want to use the product as a tape device. So in that case, TAP V2 is that second library. So this is different than using it as a tape library because you're using it as a tape device. So maybe you're not using BRMS or Robot Save, but instead you're using the IBM Save commands or Go Backup, menu options in your backup scenario, to where what you can do is and you're not replacing a tape library, you're replacing a tape drive. So if you want to use the product as a tape device, you can set that up so that you can use it to automatically load a tape into the drive, have it initialized, and ready to go for a save. And that's an automated process. You can have it automatically expire tapes because Laservault has some retention capabilities with the replication. It can do retention of your tapes. If you're creating a new tape each day for a backup, and say for your dailies, you want to keep those for 7 days, then you can set the retention on those tapes, and I'll show you that here in a minute. For those dailies, weeklies, and monthly saves, you can using it as a tape device. So you see that what's great about this solution is you're not changing your backup procedures. So whether you're using the IBM save commands, option 21, every day, every week, whatever, because this can do everything that tape can do, this can do as well. If you're using BRMS or Robot Save and using it as a tape library, it's going to work exactly the same as your physical tape library, only much faster. And we've seen our customers compare tape to disk backup when they go to Laservault, and their backups are twice as fast. The restores are also much faster because you're not having to seek through a tape in order to restore a file that's, deep into a library or deep into the tape. There's no having to stream through that tape. Laservault's going to go right to that marker where that file exists, and the restore will begin immediately. All right, so let's talk about some of the other features when you're defining. Let's talk about the tape library first. The name of the library is here, which shows up over on the left under Library 1. This is important, the library path, because with Laservault, you have the ability to configure storage that you want to use for your backups. And that, in this case, I'm using the E volume on a Windows server. So you could have a Windows server, a physical server with RAID 10, RAID 6, whatever that you would like to set up on that server, and use that disk for storing your backups. Another option would be a SAN or NAS. So some of our customers had existing SAN or NAS systems to where they had disk available, and they would use an SMB share path for the library path to have those tapes stored and those backups for those tapes stored on that SAN or NAS. Deduplication appliance is also an option, and there's several on the market. We work with Exagrid quite a bit, Cohesity, and also Rubric. And we even have customers that actually save to a data domain appliance. So if you're looking at deduplication for any other types of backups, your Veeam backups, any Linux or Unix backups, and you'd like to also look at iSeries for deduplication and replication, Laservault can write to those application systems, those appliances, those dedupe appliances, and you'll have all the benefits of deduplication, which is a high compression, 10 to 1, 20 to 1. We've seen as high as 50 to 1 compression for deduplication of iSeries data. So what's great about this solution is you have a lot of different options that you can set up for disk storage of your backups. The export path. This is available if you want to ever take a tape out of the inventory and store it elsewhere. This particular path points to Microsoft Azure Cloud Storage. So I'm actually, when I do an export and I remove the tape, it is moving the tape and the data for that tape to that path. And at any time you need to, you can go to where you have exported those tapes, get a list of them, and then check whichever one you want to bring back into the inventory, and that tape will be moved back into the tape library. Tape emulation, we're emulating LTO5. What's important to know here is that does not affect speed, so we're not going to go LTO5 speed. Number two is that there's no storage limit on those tapes. So there's no LTO5 storage limit. You can write as much data as you need to one single tape. So know that with this solution, your full backups will always take one tape no matter how much data. The number of storage slots, this is set to 48 slots for the tapes that I want to use. What's great about this is you can increase that number as many times as you need to, up to over 16, I think it's 16,356 or something like that. So it's quite a few number of slots. But what's great about this, with a tape library, you could grow out of it if you need more slots, because it only has a limited number. This virtually has no limit on the number of storage slots that you can create for your tapes. We have three different performance functions here: data block, file count, write cache, and read cache. These are settings to increase the speed of your backup, and that's one of the main goals that we're looking to accomplish, and that we do accomplish with our customers, is writing the data out to disk much faster than it's written to tape. Write cache is for your save speed. Read cache is for your restore speed. Those settings, both of them go all the way to 24 meg. Those can affect speed for saves and restores, so you can adjust those as needed. Data block file count, this is how many files can be written and used for each tape. So even though you only have one virtual tape, we have, in this case, 8 files associated with that tape. So when data is being saved, it's actually being written to 8 files at the same time, and then that number can go all the way to 32. Again, this is for performance. This is for if you're writing to a deduplication appliance that has a multi-node cluster where each node can process its own individual block files during the backup. The software has compression and encryption. Compression averages 5:1. Now, I would note that if you do have a lot of IFS scanned in PDF documents or TIFF images, those are already compressed. If you have millions of those, your compression may drop to 2:1. Typically, we see 5:1 when there's not a heavy IFS number of documents in the IFS. 5:1, I've seen it as high as 10:1, but it's typically 5:1. Encryption is here. Encryption key is there, so that is used when you do a restore. You can create the label file. I'll show you that in a minute. We have some logging set up here that you can put in case there's some sort of issue that we need to look at in technical support. Replication and retention. So for this tape library, I have 3 different replications defined for demonstration purposes. One is network path, Amazon S3, Microsoft Azure. So replication and retention defined as a network path means that you're writing, say, from one SAN to another SAN that's at a different location. You're writing to a SAN or NAS or even a separate Laservault server that you could be writing to in terms of a network path. And that could be off-site, that could be at a co-location, that could be at SunGuard, whatever location that you would set up to store copies of these backups for disaster recovery. Amazon S3, those are the 2 cloud providers that we have already set up in Laservault so that you can put in the information. Amazon is simple storage, and then Microsoft Azure is blob storage. Those are really actually pretty inexpensive options for storing your backups. I think I looked at 20 terabytes of storage of backups, and it was around $350 a month, something like that. So it seems to be relatively pretty inexpensive if you want to replicate your backups to either of those options for an offsite copy. Now, there are some other settings. You can set a volume prefix. So any of your tapes, the asterisk means I'm replicating all tapes with this replication config right here. But if you put a prefix there, like D for daily, then that would, and all your daily tapes are created with a prefix of D. Well, you could put the D there, and that would set the replication for those tapes and also retention. Now, if you're using BRMS or Robot Save, that's all your retentions handled through those products, because the retention, the media policies are set on those so that they expire, and then once they do, they're again available to use for a backup. If you're using this as a tape device and you're using the regular go save commands on the iSeries, you can use this to maintain how long you keep tapes. And you can maintain and configure the replication of the backups to the network path to the cloud storage. Replication policy, I'm going to enable replication. I'm going to go ahead and replicate blank tapes. I'm going to replicate either all volumes or the most recent number of volumes. Replicate to a network path. If I change this, I could change this to a Microsoft Azure account, put in all the information for that, or an Amazon S3, and then put all the information for the bucket account for the simple storage in Amazon S3. You can set to compress local during the replication, so it would compress it. So you'd be writing the data non-compressed. This would compress the data before it's sent, and then, or you could set to compress after it's been sent at the remote location. Encryption, if the data is already compressed and encrypted, you wouldn't need any of these features checked. Local retention, this enables you to set how long you want to store these volumes based on the volume prefix. So you can enable local retention on those tapes based on the age. Mine are set to 10 days. The last time modified date, which would be the last time they were used to be saved, or number of volumes. So you can do the most recent volumes you would like to set retention. You can set after expiration, either initialize or delete those tapes. If you're reusing the tape, if you're going to reuse the tape for another rotation for a daily, weekly, or monthly, then you could just initialize it, automatically load it, and then initialize it. Or and you could automatically load the tape and then do the save. If you delete it, then what you're doing currently with your backups is you're just automatically creating a tape before each backup runs, and you just want that to delete once it's reached its expiration. We have remote retention here. This allows you to set retention differently if you would like to do that to where you're copying the backups to. So if it's, where you would like to store a long-term backup, for its retention at the remote site, but you would like to keep it for less time on the Laservault disk or on the SAN or NAS that's local, then you could set that different retention on these tapes, being that for the remote copies of these tapes. So all of this is completely automated. Once it's defined, then there's a job that runs on the Laservault server that's going to initiate this retention and also replication. If you're performing any compression or encryption, that will also be done based on these particular settings for your replication and retention. So, typically the way that you're going to save is you're going to save locally. You might be, thinking maybe you could save directly to the cloud. In most cases, that's not really fast enough in terms of a network connection to the cloud. But certainly you're going to get backup speed if you save locally and then make a second copy to any of those options so that you have a second copy for disaster recovery, something that you don't have on tape. With tape, you've got one copy. Now you can replicate to tape. You can do dupe tape, dupe media BRM. I believe Robot has a duplicate tape option to where you can take any of your virtual tapes and copy them to your tape device that is on your iSeries. You can also take a tape device connected to the Laservault server, copy to tape, and that tape can be used in an iSeries to do a restore. And you can do IPL from this as well because it's a tape device on the iSeries. So you can load a full system save, specify this as the source for the IPL, the alternate IPL device, and it will restore the system from a full system save. Jobs, this is what you can click on to see any replication jobs that are running or completed. So it just gives you a quick list. And then the email notification, you get an email notification for jobs that are running, for jobs that are completed. So library 1, so we're using this library 1 as a tape library. We have slots with tapes in them listed here. The tape drive is up top. You have the option for any of these tape devices as the administrator to move. So move the tape to a different slot, or move the tape to the drive. So if you needed to manually move a tape into the drive to perform an IPL to a system that doesn't have BRMS or robot save, you just need to load the tape. You can do it here manually, load the tape in the drive, and you're ready to do the restore. If you delete the tape, you can do that as an admin. You can export the tape, which moves it to the export path and takes it out of inventory. You can protect the tape. If you do that option, you cannot delete, cannot initialize, and you cannot overwrite the tape from either this interface or from the iSeries. Labels is a cool feature that if you're using this not as BRMS or robot save, because BRMS stores, everything that's you've saved onto tape in a database. If you're saving using the go save commands and you'd like to see which libraries are on that save before you load it in the drive to restore, you can click on that labels link there and it shows you a list of all the libraries that are in that tape. And then it also shows you the sequence as well as the size of that library. So if you go ahead and perform a save using this, say you're using BRMS, you run your control group for tonight, it's going to automatically load the next tape and the save is going to run. The software also shows you the compressed, if it's compressed. If there's an E there, it's encrypted. The T8 means that there's 8 tape files associated with this tape. So each of these are set to 8. There's an encrypted tape there. It's got the E on it. So if you do happen to remove a tape with the export feature and store it into the export path, if you ever need that tape back, you can click on import. And that's going to access the path in which this is actually a cloud storage path here, Microsoft Azure. But I do have a tape, and if I want to bring it back, you just check the box, import. In that tape, the files for that tape are downloaded back into the library path, and then this tape will be back in inventory once the import is complete. If you're using Laservault as a tape device, that is this library too. You'll notice a difference is that this command tape name right here is in the drive because we can use that to accept commands from the iSeries. And 2 commands I want to focus on are the create tape command and the load tape command. So let's say from the iSeries we're going to create a tape for our backup. CRT TAP UBD is a command. TAP V2. We'll just do today's date, 02/10/21. We'll initialize that. Oops. TAP V2. So that's complete. Let's refresh this screen. So there is 2/10/21, the tape I just created, initialized, loaded into the drive, and ready to go. Now we have some sample CL programs that come with Laservault in the Vital library that have some different options for using to create your tape names. You have 6 characters just like you would for a volume serial number on a physical tape. And you can use like a Julian date with a prefix. There's a lot of different CO programs that we have that you can set up and configure the way that you want to automatically create your tape for that backup. And again, if you do prefix that tape with a character, you can use that prefix to establish, a certain retention for those prefixed tapes, as well as a replication for those tapes. So now my save is ready to run. I can run save library, I can run option 21, whatever save that I want that I run for that night is going to run and it's going to save to that tape. Let's talk about a second command called load tape. So let's say you need to load a tape to restore something. So we can do load tape UBD, APV2, we'll do test 02. We'll load this. We won't initialize it. If I could type. So that tape is loaded. We'll refresh. So there's test 02. It's now loaded in the drive. So now you can do a restore. But again, you can do a move here and move a tape into the drive. If you're using load tape for your nightly backup, then you'll just want to have a parameter for the volume that you want to load. You know, if it's simple as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's how you name your tapes. Then you could, you know, use the day of the day of the week as a parameter from the system to load that tape automatically into the drive, and then your save is performed. And therefore, you're just rotating through a set of tapes. If you create a tape each day, you can set a retention on those tapes so that they expire and they delete, because each day you're just creating a new tape for your backups. So you have a lot of different options here. Again, you're not having to deal with physical tape here. You're able to get to this from anywhere on your network. If you have access to your network at home, to your computer, your work computer from home, if you're working from home, you'll be able to, at any time you need to, load a tape so somebody can do a restore of the data. You're able to automatically load tapes for your daily saves. So it's completely automated. You're not having to go into the office to swap out tapes, to get tapes back from the shelf, to label tapes, to inventory tapes, to move tapes to offsite storage. You know, all these things can be eliminated with a completely automated function of using Laservault as your virtual tape device and having virtual tapes on disk. And again, your backups could be twice as fast as they currently are with your tape device. Okay, so looking at some configurations here, this is using Laservault as a backup appliance. And all that means is that Laservault, the server that's running Laservault, it's a physical server. It has disk storage on it. That's where the data is being written to. The tapes are being stored. It's a rated configuration for protection. This is also showing a tape device connected to the Laservault server, to where you can take a virtual tape, copy it to that tape drive, and use that in the iSeries tape device to do a restore, IPL, whatever. But you can also do dupe tape, so you can copy from Laservault to your existing tape device. So if you decide that there are times that you need to create a tape, you can do that with dupe tape, dupe media, BRM, and actually copy directly over to your physical tape that you have connected to the iSeries. Then we have the replication to a DR site. So there's two Laservault servers, one at the production where you're performing saves, the other one at the DR site. And that's the target for the replicated saves. If it's connected to a second iSeries with Laservault, then you would have the ability to do saves and restores if you had to roll over to the DR system, either for testing purposes or for an actual issue with the production system. Again, you're connected Laservault through Fiber Channel or SAS. With Fiber Channel, you have NPIV capability to create multiple tapes for each physical Fiber Channel connection into the Laservault server. And we also talked about saving to a SAN or NAS, and that's really what makes Laservault very flexible, because it could give you the ability to leverage existing disk, SAN or NAS disk, for storing your tape backups, an existing deduplication appliance, or if you're looking at another backup appliance for your other platforms that you want to save instead of saving to tape, that you'd like to save those to disk, then you could incorporate the iSeries into that backup platform to save yourself some money and give you the abilities of deduplication, replication if you're interested in that technology for your other saves, or just for the iSeries for that matter. So using Laservault as UBD, that was where I used it as a tape device. So if you think of UBD as a tape device instead of a tape library, you get all this same functionality: replication, tape out, replicate to tape, replicate to a second Laservault server, replicate to cloud, all the same capabilities. You're just using it as a tape device on the iSeries instead of a tape library. Okay, so if you'd like to see a personal online demo, so you've seen quite a bit. You've basically seen a lot that I talk about in the demo and go over and show in an actual demo of the product. And so the next step would be to go into more detail, get your questions answered, and also go over your current iSeries environment. How many LPARs do you need to back up? How many tape devices would you need for that? How much storage would you need? What are your options for replication of those backups so you have a second copy for disaster recovery? And of course, and with all that fun, you get a $50 Amazon gift card once the demo is complete. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so I want to thank everyone very much for your time. Here's some contact information if you'd like to get with us to schedule that demo. Or even additional information. There are some PDFs in the GoToWebinar panel that's on the side of your screen there. There's some downloadable testimonials, PDFs with some additional information. There's lots of information on our website, laservault.com. You can reach me directly at extension 1001 if you just want to go over some questions, or you can email us at info@laservault.com. We're doing a giveaway of Beats Solo 3 wireless headphones. So the winner will be notified via email. And so once we have that drawing, we'll send out the email to the person that would win those headphones. Those are wireless Bluetooth headphones. Okay, and one other thing, IBM Global Financing. If you are looking at upgrading your power system to Power 9, I hear they're getting ready to come out with Power 10. But if you're doing that and you're going to finance that new box or two new boxes, if you're doing a disaster recovery, think about instead of a tape library or a tape drive, adding this to your global financing for your new system. So it's just a possibility, another way to purchase as opposed to tape, to where you can include everything in with your IBM Global Financing for your backups, the disk, and your new power system. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for your time, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you very much.